Dear Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased and honored to welcome you all to the first annual scientific conference of MediPIET. It is truly exciting to see you seated here, coming from very far and very near, being ready for the important task that lies ahead of us. I guess you as epidemiologists always have in your minds questions like where, who, and why. I would like to answer those questions. First, the where. Why Macedonia was chosen as the headquarters of the first annual scientific conference. Macedonia, through the Institute of Public Health, gave a major contribution to the development of European Union-supported Mediterranean Programme for Intervention Epidemiology Training Projects, MediPIET, in the preparatory phase under the scientific leadership of the ACDC and in the implementation phase in collaboration with Institute of Public Health Carlos III and FIAPP. In the kick-off meeting held in Hammamet in September 2014, Macedonia was elected to chair the Training Center Forum, and I have been honored to chair this governing body during the first years of its implementation. During my time in this position, I felt how important it is to communicate, to exchange our experience, and to be together in the fight against the human threats. Despite this, Macedonia lies in the heart of Balkan Peninsula. Skopje, the capital city, has a 2,000 years old tradition. It's a very attractive tourist destination with its historical monuments and archaeological sites. Then comes the question of who. You, the epidemiologists and public health workers, were selected on the basis of your expertise and your scientific works. You are coming from different countries with different cultures and beliefs, with different health systems. MediPIET project, through this conference and other modules, give you the opportunity to meet each other, to discuss and to exchange your experience. MediPIET gives to all of you the opportunity to collaborate and to facilitate the communication. Learning by doing is the main method of the program. Finally, we are faced with the why. Why all of us agreed to take part in this project? Do we really need this project? The answer is clear. A program like MediPIET is more than needed for Macedonia and I guess for all Mediterranean and Black Sea countries. We have reached the end of the first year of the program implementation and we already have visible results. The first 8 fellows from Macedonia, Albania, Tunisia and Lebanon will present their scientific work. MediPIET is not only a fellowship program, it is a program for all public health employees that work in the field of the epidemiology of infectious disease. It is open to external participants and supervisors as well. Since the infectious disease knows no borders, there is a constant need for surveillance and assessment of risk to provide a strong line of defense for all of us, Mediterranean and European. We should speak the same language and use the same methodology in the fight against infectious disease. Therefore, we need a continuous training program. We need MediPIET for a long term. I would like to thank the European Commission for the financial support, ACDC for the scientific support, and Institute of Public Health Carlos III and FIAPP for implementation of the project. But for more, I would like to thank all participants from Mediterranean and Black Sea countries for their participation. Without us, there is no MediPIET. I hope you will have a wonderful and productive conference. And finally, I would like to say to all of you, Enjoy your stay in Macedonia. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Dear Mr. MediPIET, dear colleagues in the panel, dear guests from Mediterranean countries, from Eastern Europe, from Western Balkan countries, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure for me to address this conference on behalf of the European Union. The Mediterranean Programme for Intervention Epidemiology Training is a regional initiative funded by the European Union with an aim to contribute towards enhancing health security in the Mediterranean region and building capacities for preventing and controlling of threats posed by communicable diseases and other health threats. This is being done through a training program in intervention epidemiology. In times when daily political issues take much of our time, it is easy to get the perception that other areas are not part of the European Union assistance programs. Even though the European Union provided only modest assistance to the health sector under the National Pre-Accession Assistance Programme, this project demonstrates that we support the health sector as well. Furthermore, the migrant-refugee crisis underlined once again how important the regional cooperation and networking is for strengthening health security. This forum for exchange of information, experience, and best practices is the best tool for preventing and mitigating the impacts of cross-border health breaks. At the end of this short address, let me congratulate the host, the Institute for Public Health, on its initiative, involvement, and dedication since the launch of this regional European Union-funded project. I wish you a productive conference, a lot of success in achieving your goals. Thank you very much.
Dear Dr. MediPIET, dear Mr. Orof, dear colleague from the panel, dear representative of the countries, dear Assembly, I'm very pleased to be here today representing the Commission, the European Commission, and the DG DEFCO. DG DEFCO is the Ministry for Development and Cooperation of the Union, responsible for funding this project MediPIET. This financial support comes from the instrument called Contributing to Stability and Peace, a European external assistance instrument aiming at preventing and responding to crises around the world. It targets urgent short-term action in response to crises, but also long-term capacity building at local institutions for the prevention of crisis and on-site response. Within this instrument, we have the CBRN COE initiative, the Center of Excellence fighting against the threat from chemical, biological, and radionuclear origin. This initiative strengthens the capacities of the region around the European Union for tackling those threats coming from natural, accidental, or criminal origin. This initiative is very wide. It covers 8 regions and 58 countries, with in each country a national focal point responsible for tackling the coordination in its country. The initiative helps the partner countries to define the gap in the mitigation of CBRN risk. The initiative helps the country to define a national action plan and funds projects to help the implementation of these plans. MediPIET is one of these projects. It's targeting, of course, regional biological threat. As you know, an outbreak usually follows a natural contamination, but it can come from an accidental event, and it could be also criminal. The risk posed by biological threat globally is growing. With the intensification of trade internationally, the increasing number of travelers and migrants, the pathogens do not know borders. The recent Ebola crisis has devastated 3 West African countries, but it was not far to spread to other countries in the region. A long delay to identify the disease, a lack of health capacities in those countries, and a late international reaction have led to this unprecedented crisis. Other hemorrhagic fevers, such as the Rift Valley fever or Crimean Congo fever, are reported regularly. MERS is not under control in the Middle East. plague and tularemia are still endemics in countries of Southeast Europe and Central Asia. We need to be ready to fight this threat as soon as they could occur. All states must exert a continuous monitoring of the population health and set up capacities to identify new emerging health risks and protecting their population. This preparedness includes the development of a strong network of well-trained epidemiologists. Within the Union, the establishment of the MediPIET network was very successful. A similar initiative was then developed in the east and south of Europe with the project EpiSouth, followed by EpiSouth Plus. Now, for the last 3 years, MediPIET is taking over. After a pilot phase, defining the criteria for being a training size, the process for fellow selection, and the content of the training module, it has been a year now that the training module did start with the engagement of official fellows and other trainees. I'm very confident that this effort will not only reinforce the capacities, but also stimulate high exchange between the partner countries, a major request for success. I'm very excited to learn more about the work performed by the fellows and trainees under the supervision of their respective mentors. I thank you all for being here and having worked hard to present these results. And I would like to finish by a special thanks to our Macedonian host, welcoming us here in the beautiful city of Skopje. Thanks a lot for the organization, and I'm sure this event will be quite successful. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, I'm very happy to sit here and welcome you to the first scientific conference of MediPIET. And this is 1 year after our last big meeting in Hammamet in Tunisia, when many of you were also there. I also want to thank our host, Dr. Shaban Mehmeti, Director of the Institute of Public Health, for inviting us all to Skopje and to your beautiful country. Actually, I was here 5 years ago and then advising on a health reform. And I must say that the hospitality and the friendliness of the people in this country and in Skopje took me warmly. And I really hope that many of you or some of you will have opportunity maybe to stay on a few days and see more of the city, because it's very beautiful. As having been mentioned by several people before me, this scientific meeting is against a heavy political backdrop. After our last meeting in Tunisia, not long after that, we saw a terrible terror attack in Tunisia, and that has been followed by other attacks in Egypt, in Lebanon, and most recently in Paris. And at the same time, we are seeing an unprecedented refugee situation. We have not seen the like of that since World War II, with large amounts of refugees from Syria, from Iraq, from Afghanistan, from Africa, coming to Europe, but maybe more important, many or most of these staying in the near region. Yesterday, when flying here, I was sitting next to some of the colleagues from Lebanon, and we were discussing the really heavy situation with more than 1 million refugees in a small country like Lebanon. And this is, of course, putting an immense stress on the public health systems in the whole region. And at the same time, we have disease challenges. We have new challenges like the MERS coronavirus with the polio outbreaks. But as seen of all the abstracts in this conference, we have all the traditional diseases that we have been fighting for decades. So I think that this overall situation makes MediPIET even more important. We, as public health experts, forming a strong network, a strong scientific network, a strong public health network, we could stand above the political conflicts, and we could support the universal values of being of service and support to our countries and in support to our communities in a time when other forces want to tear these apart. 4 years ago, many of us were meeting in France, in Verrières-du-Lac, and we had the first brainstorming of what could be a regional training program. And we were discussing back, and we were discussing forth, and could we do this, and could we do that? And it's so nice to sit here today and see that a lot of what we were discussing then as a dream is coming through. What we set out to do is to create a regional training program that was inspired by MediPIET and inspired by other FETPs, but with its own identity, with its own profile, and with a strong and full ownership of the countries, of the participating countries. And I'm really glad to see that this is now coming true. Already from the first year, we have had MediPIET training sites in Albania, Tunisia, Lebanon, but also here in Skopje. And in the last year, we have done successful evaluations, and we have seen that a new generation of training sites in Serbia, Montenegro, Moldova, and Kosovo are fulfilling all the criteria to become training sites. Many of you have been to the courses, to the MediPIET courses as fellows, but also as trainers and supervisors. But training is one part, and I think that Mike Catchpole in his keynote speech will also come back to the importance of networking, because I think that one of the beauties with a project of this is the networking part, with colleagues coming together, getting to know each other face to face, and forming a strong public health family. And that's also why I'm very, very glad that we now have also Moldova, Ukraine, Georgia, and Armenia as full members of this beautiful network. When we were setting out and planning for this scientific seminar, we were looking back at the first MediPIET seminars, which were really low-key, and it was trainers and supervisors and fellows meeting and sharing some abstracts. And we had no idea how this first MediPIET conference would be. Would be a few abstracts and a few people sitting there and very close. But when we had the open call and we saw the enormous flow of abstracts, good scientific inputs, good science from all over the region, I mean, we were extremely happy. So I hope that we could have 2 days with good scientific discussions, and judging from the abstracts, I think that we are covering diverse topics of importance to regions and importance to all of us sitting here. So sharing experiences, sharing practices, and I'm really looking forward to these 2 days and hope for good discussions. Thank you very much for coming here. Thank you very much for bringing your knowledge, your experience, your abstracts, and I think that this will be 2 beautiful days. Thank you.
Ambassador, dear colleagues and friends, I'm very happy to welcome you in this first MediPIET Annual Scientific Conference. Thank you very much for being here. I would like to start my words thanking all the effort done by the Scientific Committee, the ECDC team, the National EFTP directors, supervisors, and especially to Concha, our colleague that is missing this conference because of a serious family problem. My great thanks to the organizational committee. Sometimes we forget that there are someone behind all of you to be here. And especially to Eriona, Vladimir, Roberto, and Enrique. Thank you very much for your effort. Literally speaking, day and night, they are working for, setting up this conference. Your contribution of the success of this first MediPIET Scientific Conference has been essential for its success. I also like to thank the reviewers and scientific coordinators for their commitment, time devoted to examine the abstract and the fruitful advices for the participants, and of course, to congratulate the author of abstract. We really apologize for those participants that have not been able to enter in this country because of the visa issue. Sorry for that. We are missing them. The final list of participants is 7 participants from Albania, 4 from Armenia, 2 from Bosnia, 4 from Egypt, 11 from this country, 5 from Georgia, 1 from Israel, 8 from Kosovo, 4 from Lebanon, 5 from Moldova, 4 from Montenegro, 1 Morocco, 5 from Palestine, 8 from Serbia, 4 from Tunisia, and 10 for Turkey. And the total number of participants, including ECDC, European Commission, special guest, and MediPIET staff, is 107. The total number of abstracts presented was 75, and the total number of abstracts accepted was 63. The figures are self-explanatory about the capacity for the MediPIET networking to mobilize its scientific community. Taking into account that this is the first scientific conference, I can say that this conference is a great success. After these words, we will listen to the keynote speech, and then we will go to the coffee break, the most important thing. After that, it will start the plenary session A, surveillance of communicable disease, till the lunch time. Then we will have the poster session A till coffee break, and after plenary session B, outbreak investigation and food waterborne diseases. Tomorrow, we will start at 9 with the plenary session C, HPV, AIDS, and sexually transmitted diseases, till coffee break. Then the plenary session D, immunization and vaccine preventable diseases and vaccine coverage, effectiveness and safety, till lunch. After lunch, it will start the poster session B for 1 hour and a half, and at 15, we will start with the plenary session F, vector-borne diseases and burden of diseases, till the coffee break. And at 4:15, it will start the last session, and then we will go conduct the closing ceremony. To be at this stage today is not a merit only of us. I would like to remind you the work done by ECDC in the preparatory phase, and especially by Elena Petrakova. It is necessary to take into account the huge effort devoted by her and the ECDC team in the preparatory phase to be able to understand the success of this scientific conference. Thank you, Cal, for your contribution at the end. Jean Monnet, one of the founding fathers of the incipient European community, European Union, and at that time the European coal and steel community, said at the beginning of this process, "Nous ne coalisons pas les États, nous unissons des hommes." We are not forming coalition of states, we are uniting people. What we are doing today in this conference is to follow the idea that Jean Monnet decided to follow 60 years ago. The important is the people, the scientific community, and the epidemiological state of art of knowledge that you are going to share among you yourself for the benefit and welfare of the population of your countries. Thank you for joining us and contribute with your experience to create a safer world for human beings. Thank you very much.